as the industry is changing so fast, this is the number one question that everybody is asking, because CMOs traditionally have always worked on upper funnel, right? And how am I filling that awareness bucket? And these shopper agencies and clients are just about that conversion. But now, because it's all coming together, how do we do this in the best way possible? So I think everyone is working together and trying to figure out the story.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Wurst.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Snarketing Podcast. We apologize for the several weeks that we decided to take off and actually recover from a blazing hot opening spring series of episodes on the Snarketing Podcast, but we are back ready and refreshed with a sizzling series of scorching snark. And Valerie, welcome.
Wow, that was a lot of...
Yeah, you know I like to alliterate. I love alliteration.
Maybe that's why you like me.
That's true. You are a VV. What's your middle name?
I don't have one.
Wow. You know what? I would not have guessed
the one
that.
Catholic. I know, I'm the one Catholic who does not have a middle name.
I like to guess people's middle names, and I am almost always wrong because there are a lot of names out there. But I feel like I can look at you and be like, you would be Valerie Martina Vespa, but you're not. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
Martina.
I don't know why.
That's amazing.
I couldn't think of another V name. You don't want to be triple V.
Yeah,
but how are you? You took some time away during our sabbatical of several weeks. So did you do anything interesting?
I know. Let's see. What has it been? It's May. I've just been working a lot.
That's not as fun.
The work has been very busy, but I have been traveling. I was just in Chicago taking some meetings. I did go to the Grateful Dead show at the Sphere.
How was that?
And I must tell you, the Sphere, I had been there during CES to see a Darren Aronofsky film, short film. And that was very, very cool. It was like brought me back to the days of like, I don't know, like those amphitheaters where like the seats would shake and like wind would blow at you while animals were
It's
like
a Disney
at
ride.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. But this was on another level of that. And one, the sound was incredible. Like I didn't leave there with my ears like buzzing from like losing my hearing. It was just a beautiful sound, and the visuals for that show were just beyond. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before.
Well, that's saying a lot because you've experienced a lot of things, including some pretty incredible things that have happened on this podcast. It is hard to pair the audio and visual when you are just listening to a podcast. I agree.
What about you?
Well, speaking of a multimedia experience, I've been busy. I've been working on some new projects. I've taken on a new client and opportunity that I think is tremendously exciting in the retail plus community media space, which we'll talk more about in the weeks and months to come. But I'm leveraging some skills that I've built up over the years, some expertise and experience, and applying it in a slightly different area than I have. So there's some newness and excitement to it, but also a little bit of just like uncertainty. And today's guest is someone who can help shed light on what the retail media and content converging space is all about. And I'm excited to talk to him because he's someone I've known for like a decade plus. Valerie, I don't think you've ever met him.
No,
Maybe?
I have not.
No.
But a lot of his, people in his orbit at Walmart.
Yeah, he's great. His name is Doug Jossem. He and I first met when he was at Twitter and I was in my 360i days. Now he is the head of food at Walmart. And you know what? There's a lot of food at Walmart.
Like a football stadium's worth per store.
It is a lot. And I'm excited to talk to him about the Walmart experience as well as the broader trends and things that are happening in our space. But as always, with a touch of snark.
Do you love Walmart? Do you love Walmart as much as I do?
I was ready to jump in and tell you how much I love Walmart, and that's why I'm excited to talk to him. I do love Walmart. I sometimes get overwhelmed there, but what I've discovered is if I can just continue to shop on their app, it's actually a good counterbalance to being in store. So it's like sometimes I need real people, and sometimes I just need to get it done and get it
Yeah.
in my house.
Nice.
And that's where Walmart connects.
Before we introduce our guest, I want to welcome the first ever sponsoring partner of the Snarketing Podcast. Lead Feeder is a game changer in the lead generation arena. We're excited to have them on board, and we'll tell you more about them in just a few minutes. And now to our guest. He's a longtime media and marketing executive with an impressive resume. But he's an even more outstanding person. Doug Jossem has been at Twitter, Vice Media, and now is the head of food at Walmart. I have no doubt he's going to school us all on retail media and other exciting things in our industry. You ready? Let's do this.
Douglas Thomas Jossem, welcome to the Snarketing Podcast. Is that your middle name? I don't even know. We have a terrible research department.
Absolutely not, but I'll go with it. It sounds very professional.
Great. Well, I am, on behalf of Valerie and I, grateful for you having made time out of your busy schedule to join us. And before we jump in, because you and I go way back, I would love to just ask you, for those who may not know, tell us a little bit about what your company does. What is Walmart?
What is Walmart? That's a great question. Walmart is the largest omni-channel retailer in the world. And we are a Fortune 1 company, which I don't think a lot of people actually know. And on top of even being a Fortune 1 company, we're the largest grocer in the country as well. And that's the part of the business that I get to work on and lead from a Walmart Connect perspective.
So as Fortune 1, are you lonely? Like there's no one else in that group?
No, but there's a lot of others that are nipping at the heels. But it is it's a humbling position to be in, and it's a responsibility I think that the company takes very, very seriously. Just with the amount of revenue that we do bring in and how we grow that in a way that that is responsible, I guess is the best.
Okay, so you mentioned Walmart Connect. Is that a revenue driving stream for the company that is at any point going to challenge what is happening in store and online? Like, tell us, what is Walmart Connect, your role and your priorities before we get into who you are.
There we go.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a layup question a little bit. I like it. So Walmart Connect is the advertising arm for Walmart. And so the best way to say this is we are the conduit between suppliers or the advertisers reaching our mutual customers, and in a way that where they can share messaging that the prices are incredible at Walmart and people should either come to store or purchase online the products that they have. So we are a revenue driver for Walmart overall. But I think the better way to look at it is we are a communication conduit to ensure that suppliers are getting the best messages to the customer at the end of the day.
So Walmart has always prioritized customer experiences first and foremost, yet the entire business is obviously driven on sales and optimizing conversion, right? So how do you balance the creative side of marketing with those sort of data-driven demands of retail?
Wow, I mean that's a big question there, Valerie.
I know we started with the layup, so
I know. Matt started with the easy ones, and you jump right in. I think it's a multi-pronged answer that I'm going to give you. So the ethos of Walmart is to help the customer save money and live better. That is tattooed in everyone's brain. That is what we all work on, is we want to help people save money and live better. So now, the way that Walmart Connect can help suppliers do that, and to your question, in a more creative way, well, think about the data that I have. I know that Matt is a heavy buyer of a product. I know Matt is a lapsed buyer of a product. I know everything about his buying behaviors. Now, in a creative manner, if I am trying to communicate to Matt and understand how he's buying, but have the same creative that's going for a lapse buyer or for him being a heavy buyer of a product, well, then that's a total miss, right? So that's the first thing, is customize the creative to reach the individual at scale, which we're able to do. And secondarily is, what is the message that you're sending Matt once you reach him, if he is a lapse buyer of the product? Is the price, something that you want to ensure that he understands that this price is going to be better at Walmart than it is anywhere else? And what's the creative treatment that's going to go along with that? So we take the mission, which is partly with the price, with our targeting to Matt to make sure that he can convert. Now, one of the biggest differentiators that we have, though, we have around 145 million shoppers each week in the US, okay? And reach about 90% of the country each month. So the opportunity to have this deterministic, not probabilistic, but deterministic data set that I'm able to reach is unmatched. And so understanding who you are, and then do you see that ad? Did you go to Walmart.com and purchase that product? Did you walk into a Walmart and purchase that product? Or, some people may do it at other times. Did you go to a different retailer and purchase that product? And through third-party connections we have with Nielsen, we can test that and see that.
It sounds like a very sophisticated challenge that you've come up with a solution for. You could have just asked me. I am a lapsed buyer of hair care products, and I am heavily buying Hershey's candies. So there you go. You did not need any algorithm to tell you that. But what,
yes,
as retail media, I'm making air quotes, listener, is not really, it's not so new anymore, yet it's still a very hot buzzword. As we head to Cannes, right, that is probably one of the top 2 or 3 topics that you will hear people talking about. But I would be curious to hear from your perspective at the pinnacle of this ecosystem. How do you think of that term? What does it mean in simplest terms to you? Like, how are you explaining it to your 7-year-old as a marketer?
Well, I have a 5-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. So I try to explain this quite often to them, and I fail. So I'll try it with the two of you, and you tell me how it goes. It's retail media is the best way for a brand or a supplier, as however you want to call it, to connect directly with a customer to provide an outcome that they're looking for.
So P&G is using your owned and operated channels to reach me, basically.
Well, it's not just the owned and operated. It's also everything off platform. Let me take a step back and just explain the offerings that we have. And when I started at Walmart about a little over a year and a half ago, there was one page with a smattering of offerings that we have all over the place, and it was confusing. So what I wanted to do is bifurcate it and really help brands understand how to reach the customers that we have. The first is our in-store experience. So you can, as you're walking into a store, we can have experiential events outside. It could be a food truck. It could be a, there was an F1 race that happened that I went to where a supplier put a car outside. It was their car, and you could change the tires. So the branding experience, think local, but then people take out their phones and then, put it on social for national, right? Like, distribution. When you walk into the store, we have Walmart radio. So the radio is playing. You can have an advertisement that goes on. Hey, Matt, don't forget to buy your hair care product. You can have, it wouldn't be personalized to you, but you know where I was going. It can be, we have deli screens and we have bakery screens. So you're buying a sandwich and up there a beverage, buy a beverage with your sandwich. A TV wall, which as you're walking by, will have content and your advertisements can play there. Self-checkout screens that we have. We also do demo programs. So in-store sampling where people can try your product and then buy it, or OPD, which stands for online pickup and delivery. You can put sample bags in those orders when they go out. So that's all the in-store experience of how brands are connecting to customers. Then you go for our owned, the second bucket is owned and operated. So we have search. Obviously, you search beverage and then a beverage company pops up. On-site display, which manifests itself in a bunch of different ways, and a lot of integrated marketing programs that we also can do on-site. And then the third bucket being totally off platform. So we have relationships with the trade desk, with NBC Universal. We made a deal a week and a half, 2 weeks ago with Disney, TikTok, Pinterest, and the list goes on and on, where we're taking our around 145 million weekly shoppers and matching that data with theirs, and then being able to target you off platform in those ways. So if you think about, or if you believe, and I heard the podcast with Lou Pascalis and I agree with him, if there is a purchase funnel, if there's not a purchase funnel, however you want to define it, which I don't think a lot of people are, we have the ability to do it from upper funnel awareness all the way to conversion and everything in between, because of the way that we've set this up.
Well, it took you a year and a half to simplify that. So you did a great job in about a minute and a half. It's going to take me a year and a half to fully process what you just told me.
Let me introduce you to a game changer in the lead generation arena, Leadfeeder. We all know the struggle of identifying those elusive website visitors and turning them into valuable leads. But what if I told you there's a tool that not only promises, but delivers on supercharging your lead generation and sales efforts? That's Leadfeeder. Imagine having the power to identify companies visiting your website, track their behavior in real time, and seamlessly integrate it all with your CRM. What sets Leadfeeder apart is the ability to provide detailed insights into visitor behavior, helping your sales team prioritize efforts and close deals faster. With customizable notifications, lead scoring, and GDPR compliance, Leadfeeder is changing the game. To revolutionize your approach to leads and deals, visit leadfeeder.com for a free demo. leadfeeder.com. And now, back to the conversation.
So with this sort of clarification, like, do you feel as though brands in the last year and a half that you've been there, have you seen like a dynamic shift in terms of how they're using all these different, types of media?
Yeah. And the biggest reason why is the budget sourcing for these different mechanisms, right? Is it a CMO's budget? Is it a chief sales officer's budget? Is it where a shopper, in some cases, goes into? Who's funding it, and what's the tactic? And I think as the industry is changing so fast, this is the number one question that everybody is asking. Because CMOs traditionally have always worked on upper funnel, right? And how am I filling that awareness bucket? And these shopper agencies and clients are just about that conversion. But now, because it's all coming together, how do we do this in the best way possible? So I think everyone is working together and trying to figure out the story.
So like, knowing that you guys have seen such like rocket ship type growth over the last several years, where do you see the landscape for retail media, like future forward? Like, obviously being on a rocket ship is a great concept, and you want to continue that sort of growth, but do you think it's headed for a reality check, or do you feel like there's continuing evolution that will continue to shape the success of this?
Well, I mean, for Walmart, I think we're on a great path. I think it will continue to go. But on last check, I was told there are 1,100 retail media networks. It's untenable, right? So a supplier can't work with 1,100 partners and figure out how to do it. It's overwhelming, and it's just too much. So what I do think is going to happen is I do feel there will be consolidation that's going to occur. I think this week there was Criteo just announced another partner that they just added to their roster, because I do think that will happen. In other cases, I think some people that created retail media networks will exit the business because it is expensive to hire teams to run this and to manage it. And sometimes the cost might outweigh the revenues that they can get. So in the next few years, I think a mass consolidation will occur. I do think scale will benefit those that have it, and they will be the strong winners that come through here. Because again, it's about that deterministic, not probabilistic, opportunity that you can have for this one-on-one relationship at scale. So I think that's what everybody will be chasing, and not very different than the ad networks of the mid 2000s, or the search game, that happened, as it was being built, and a lot of players fell off.
Well, there's this give and take relationship with the content and creative side of our industry, right? It's always been the case. And I know from a social perspective, and we'll get into your Twitter background probably later, but understanding the way that social has evolved from first an organic and then into a media space, right? You guys are kind of thinking about that. You showed me recently the new social feed that you added to your homepage, pulling in creator and influencer content. That convergence is happening regardless of social platforms getting banned or abandoned, right? So in your opinion, what's the most significant opportunities that brands may be missing out on right now? Is it creating more content for those channels that you can pull in, or is it pushing that content out and using those distribution channels, or is it a balance of both?
It's a balance of both. I don't think brands are necessarily missing out right now, as they're all testing and learning as they're pushing through. I think understanding, again, it depends on the supplier you speak to, if there is a purchase funnel, if there is not, but threading the needle throughout from awareness to conversion, it's not that they're missing out, they're figuring it out, right? And I think that's a big differentiator that we have to identify. It's not what are they not doing, it's how do they keep on refining what they're doing to get better and better. And everyone is so leaned in, because we can actually be accountable to every dollar that's being spent. So from an awareness driver, I know, did somebody see it, and then did they eventually convert? From a conversion perspective in lower funnel, did they search, and did they then purchase my product? So throughout it all, I know. So influencers, I think, is super important, right? If you're on TikTok, we know that TikTok is driving a ton of traffic to Walmart. That's why we partner with them as well. It's like we know that's a way Gen Z is engaging with brands and influencers. So yes, it's there. But now, how do you do that perfectly? Do you do a TikTok campaign and then do an in-store execution as well if the influencer is driving there? Do you do a sampling event in the store at the same time that the content is going through? Is it, do you couple it with, I don't know, an experiential event? So the opportunities that Walmart Connect provides the brands are vast, and having them understand how to leverage them throughout is not a missing out, but a something they're figuring out.
And it's amazing how many brands that I talk to that just rely so heavily on a TikTok or a Walmart Connect to provide that sort of data and analytics that they themselves cannot even figure out about their own products. So it's really, that's the holy grail right there. Let's talk a little bit more about you and sort of this wonderful tenure in media and marketing that you've had, from Yahoo to Turner to CNN, Twitter, Vice, Walmart Connect now.
Twitter twice. Sort of Let's talk. Well, Twitter twice. You have to mention it twice, but keep going. Sorry.
Sorry.
He's a boomerang.
So,
yes.
What has been the wildest twist or boomerang or along your career way?
Twist or boomerang? Were you pushing me into something with the boomerang?
I don't know. Matt might have been.
There's a bluebird boomerang.
There are twists and turns through everything. I actually, as Matt had mentioned about your research department, but I started out actually at an agency. I was at Deutsch, and then went to Comedy Central, and then jumped to the Turner days and Yahoo, etc. Everything is very different, right? And nothing I did was just the same thing. It was always different roles and different components. I would say the biggest twist, Vice Media Group was a lot of fun, but they were creative at the core. And I would tell you that some of the crazy things that they would come up with and do for suppliers, or brands, were just so fun and different that I think that's a lot of the twists and turns, I would say. But just even how you come up with some of the ideas and talk.
So I was half joking, but you did have two stints at Twitter. One, first of
I
all, the
did.
first time, that's how we met way back when I was
Yep.
agency side and you were begging for dollars.
You were dunking the Oreo in
We
the
were
dark.
dunking in the dark, and you were digging for dollars from dunking in the dark. So that's
Correct.
basically the parasitic relationship we
Just
had.
so Val, just so you know, though,
Yeah.
it was the Oreo campaign where the Super Bowl happened and the lights went out, and then Matt, and his team worked on for the tweet that came out. Well, lights out, but you could still dunk your Oreo in the dark.
I'm actually more proud of what we did. I mean, this is June; it's Pride Month. That was kind of where it really began and set the wheels in motion. But uh, Twitter was a great partner. Did you, when you left and then went back, like, did you miss the chaos, or was there some sort of a irresistible allure of bluebirds and hashtags that drew you back the second time?
It was an amazing organization, with incredible leadership and a product that I fundamentally believe in, and still believe in to this day. So part of the allure to go back was a supporting that, but also it was a different job. I was able to do something at a global scale, travel, to different parts of the world, had teams, in India and Japan, Australia, it was an experience for me professionally that was something that I wanted to do. And also working for a company again that I was a part of for off and on for almost 10 years in the two stints. So I have a lot of heart for the place and what we built.
So, were there any? Well, maybe I won't ask this, but any juicy stories that you can tell that their legal department won't call you up? But let's just skip that and we'll move on.
Yes.
We'll move on.
A good skip,
Yes.
Matt.
Okay.
Good skip. Yeah.
So, I mean, speaking of like all these different places, like what do you think about company culture and sort of what it takes to really create the spark that ignites motivation, good leadership, all that great stuff to create success?
It's a great question. Like, culture is everything. There's a famous Peter Drucker quote that says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast," and I fundamentally and firmly believe in that. And I always say, if you have an incredible strategy and a terrible culture, you're never going to implement it very well. If you have a so-so strategy and incredible culture, your teams will run through walls
So
to
true.
do it. So I believe in it a lot. I spend a ton of time thinking about it. I actually spend more time probably thinking about the team, than I do about the overall business and how we can motivate them and help them just overall succeed. Walmart has some incredible values, and actually a lot of the companies that I've worked for all do as well. But at Walmart, every single leader at the company always states, like, I work for you, so whatever I can do, sleeves are literally and physically like rolled up, but how do I make your life better? And it's something that it permeates throughout the entire organization. If you look at the Walmart leadership, they walk the stores at all time, right? They're there to help the associates. We have 2.1 million associates around the world, and they spend the time with each of them, and they go through to make their lives better. And what it does, and Sam Walton believed in it like thoroughly, like the better you treat your associates, the better they're going to perform, and the better the business will be. So culture is extremely important to me.
And you know every single employee and associate's name, obviously, since culture is so important. Of those 2.1 million, right?
They don't all work on my team, but yes, I the ones that do, I do.
Do you actually? I mean, I know where you live. I won't say it publicly, but there's a Walmart within, driving distance of your house. Do you walk the floors there semi regularly?
Every weekend. I go to actually multiple stores, and I travel every week. Like tomorrow morning, I'm on a flight to Arkansas, but I'm usually on a flight, and whatever city I go to, I usually stop by and check it out. I find it to be, and I wear a badge. I put my Walmart badge up, so people can see it and tell the store managers that I'm going through. I think it's extremely important to walk the walk at the stores to understand how retail works. Again, I came from a non-retail background. I didn't understand retail, but I threw myself into the deep end and I listened and I was intellectually curious and I asked tons of questions. And you can do that in a virtual way, but you don't get it until you go to the store. And actually, at Walmart, we encourage associates to volunteer your time at a local store, do the online pickup and delivery, like the picking is what we call it, to put it in help stock shelves, like do all of that. And so now when I walk a store, I know what I'm looking at and I know what I'm looking for and I know how it's being merchandised. I understand.
And your title is what, head of food, right? So have you tried every single item that you sell? I mean, you had to have eaten. I am head of food in my family, but I'm curious what head of food actually entails. I mean, I get it.
I've gained a little bit of weight since I've come over. Not gonna lie, but it's not everything. There's a lot of items, but I try them all. It's you spend a lot of time with the suppliers, and they have you try a lot of their items. So I can say I've definitely I've had a lot, not all. There's a lot of items.
Being from Brooklyn, we would go visit my son's grandparents down in Sarasota, and we would take every time we would go, we'd take a trip to Walmart. It was like going to Disneyland for my son and for even myself, because it's just we don't get that in Brooklyn, that sort of like scale of types of products to buy at such good deals. It's really I enjoy
Shorter
it
lines
thoroughly.
than Disney.
That's true. That's true. Better prices too. When you think about a store, it's crazy because all of us that live in the New York City area don't see these big stores, but a super center is 3 football fields big. So if you think about it, like that's the size of the store, and the grocery section alone is 1 football field big. So the amount of just of assortment and opportunities, I was going to say, but things to buy is just overwhelming. It's a crazy experience. And what we don't also realize here in the East Coast, on the Northeast, in the New York tri-state area, a lot of people don't experience it like the rest of the country does, or understand the impact that Walmart has on people that aren't just in a major city. And this is where people go to get all their necessities, right? And this is how they eat, and this is where they get their food. It's their clothes. It's a really important and impactful organization that I don't know a lot of people understand that are in the cities. The ones outside the cities totally get it.
So conversely, like, what's a tech innovation that you think is underrated and should get more attention?
Well, one of the things, it's not that this technology needs more attention, but I think it's not appropriately being leveraged right now. I mean, is AI, which I know that what are we, like 20, 30 minutes in already, and I've only now brought it up. I think everybody talks about it, but nobody is really using it to the way that it will be used, I think, in the next few years.
Agreed.
So I think that there's under leveraged and underutilized just because it's still being formed. But yet, if you talk to anybody, and especially when we're all at Cannes, everybody will tell you that like AI it's here, it's done. It's like everything is artificial intelligence. But I think it's the farthest thing from the truth. I do see a world though where it's going to change quickly. But if you use Chat GPT, which I use a lot, or you go to Dolly and you have it like make your photos or try to create things, there's still a lot of room for improvement to be more precise. No doubt it will happen in short order, but I don't think it's where we need it to be yet.
I just thought about your earlier comment about creative and the fact that you have so many touch points throughout a consumer journey to, the brands can speak to that consumer. Like, it just seems like such a smart use of it, right?
Agreed. And that will be the future. But again, if you're asking though for the today, that's my thoughts on that.
No, there's a B2B component, there's a B2C component to it, but like AI is such an umbrella term that really means everything and nothing. And I get excited about like very specific use cases as I see them develop, but the more general this is a fix for everything it's just not reality. So
But it will be if you start to see, like, the implementations that are starting. It's like they're just scratching the surface. Again, there's a perception that I think it's much further along in the advertising world than it is. But again, short order, it will change.
well, I will tell you, I live in where I go to a rival grocery store just because of convenience every once in a while, not very often, but they got like robots perusing the aisle and like chasing me and following me down. And I can only imagine that as those robots get smarter, they're going to be making suggestions, like tapping me on the shoulder saying, you shouldn't be eating that. You should be eating this. And my wife will be the one remote control driving that as I am navigating that.
They're monitoring your purchase behavior. I love it.
Somebody has to.
Yes.
Okay, so you, Doug Jossem, as I look at you and I think about you, you are like the dictionary example of what I'd expect if I looked up marketer in the dictionary. But what alternative path might you have chosen had you not gone this route? Like, what is your secret passion, desire to have potentially pursued, or might still, if this whole Walmart company goes out of business?
Yeah. I love to travel. I love it. It was like, not to be a travel agent. That wasn't where I was going with this, but I would have loved to, I don't
Anthony
know.
Bourdain.
That would have been eating my way through the world. Would have been, yes, probably that would be my dream right there. Um, I love experiencing new places. I love experiencing new foods. Putting myself into these awkward and uncomfortable situations. And I've traveled quite a bit in my life, and I've been lucky enough to do so. And if I could make money from that, that would have been my.
I was impressed that you were going with a right brain answer, and then you had to bring it fully back left brain. So there you go. At least you're being genuine and authentic with your answer.
Of course.
Yeah.
I have to.
So, like, as younger generations are becoming increasingly skeptical about advertising, how do you approach integrating authenticity into marketing and marketing campaigns?
Every single company has a mission and has something that is authentic to them. I think it's when it's forced, it doesn't obviously come through authentically. But when you start with that, and it becomes very authentic. So let me use Walmart as an example, and I'll use a few other companies. Again, everything from Walmart starts with the customer. That's it. That's all we think about, right? And if we think about the customer and we think that our mantra and our mission is to help people save money and live better, our advertising that we do, even though that's a different side of the business that they do, but it's going to come through an authentic way, because that's what people know us for. It's when people try to or not people, but brands or companies try to jump into areas that maybe isn't core to their principles or to their missions. And I think then people start to snuff it out and, feel it's not there. Like not to talk about like a previous employer, but I will, just as we were talking about, like Twitter was to democratize communication around the world, right? And that was one of the things that they leaned into heavily. Then you can go into other companies that have had, or go to the brand side. They all have their unique components, and I think when you lean into it and you do it from what's core for what you built, I think it comes through.
You and I go way back, and I've really enjoyed getting to know, watch, and even have admiration for your trajectory, your growth, the way that you've attacked things with passion and purpose and real principle, which I think is somewhat rare. You and I have had a number of off-the-record conversations that we don't need to get too deep into right now, since we are on the record. But I'm curious if there is any even remotely, let's call it controversial opinion, or a topic that you feel, whether it's in our industry or even beyond, that you wish you could talk more about without opining too much, or maybe that your PR people won't get offended by. But like, where do you like to push buttons?
Well, Well, it's less about what I like to push buttons on, but there is something I'm pretty passionate about. When I was at Vice, there were 5 lines of business, and one of them was a news division. And when I was there, I quickly realized that a lot of brands weren't leaning into news content because, the political content could be polarizing and they didn't want to pick a side, or, it could be during the time it was COVID and, they didn't want to be around that or anything. And again, not to mention his name again, but Lou Piscalis at the time really opened my eyes to understanding that there's a injustice that's happening to a lot of the news organizations that are out there, and sans dollars that are being spent on their sites or television networks. There's 2 things that happen. Number one, papers have been closing around the country at unbelievable clips. And number 2 is that based on the brands that do get involved, there is a skewing of content that will be created. And, the one thing, that I'm passionate about, what I wish I could talk more of, but now it's not really where my area like it was when I was at Vice, but is making sure that there's a responsibility that people truly understand about supporting journalism. And because if they don't, it goes away. And if it goes away, it's a problem. And I actually am worried about that if the dynamics don't change. Now it falls on the news organizations to also change the way that they, work with brands and monetize their sites. But it also a stigma has to come out of brands' minds about supporting certain organizations.
Well, in their absence, this is why we ask the hard-hitting questions, right?
Okay.
We are Valerie and I are stepping in to expose the dirty, hidden truths of the marketing industry with important and talented and expert professionals who can shine a light in the darkness.
I mean, it's terrifying to think that so many younger generations are relying on TikTok for real news, and it's probably causing a lot of issues that are in today's environment. So, anyway.
Yeah, TikTok that should be where people get their brand recommendations, not their news. Let's be honest, okay? Let's focus on TikTok on a retail media space and keep the news in the news. Yeah, okay. Hands in, guys, all right? We aligned? 1, 2, 3, hands in. Great. Okay.
So in this very fast-paced, I can imagine at Walmart, the evolution, tech, et cetera, all the things that you guys are working on, all your initiatives. How do you keep your team motivated and inspired?
It comes back to the culture that we're building, but the motivation that I have for the team is number one, we're all in it together, right? And we inspire each other because we're building something. It's humbling to think that we haven't even scratched the surface for what we're building and where this industry is, or retail media specifically, but with Walmart even more specifically, where we're headed. And the things that we're building are just exciting. So the teams are leaned in. I show a vision, a path. We get motivated because it's an exciting time to be in media, specifically in retail media. I think there's challenges in other parts of our industry right now. And we are, blessed to be a shining star in what we're doing. And we don't take that lightly. It's a really important, component. So we have the ability to build and continue to grow this incredible, opportunity that's in front of us. And I think the teams really see that. And I think they're really excited about, what they're doing. And everybody has the opportunity to put their hands in and mold it. It's not just top down, this is what you're doing and get it done. You gotta have an idea, let's build it, let's test it, or let's figure it out. And I think the teams get really excited about that component.
Well, I was going to ask you what you want your legacy or the impact that Walmart Connect has made or will continue to make in this industry, but I think you just answered it. And making bold decisions is something that you've always done. You came on this podcast, and for that bold decision, we thank you, Doug Jossem. But as we transition to our lightning round, I just want to remind our listener or listeners, depending on this, on the draw that Doug has for this episode, that you could probably find a Walmart in your town. So just go online to walmart.com, put in your zip code, and find out where your nearest location is, or just click to buy with one tap of your mouse any item you might need. Ideally, it's food, because that's how Doug feeds his family.
That's true. Closest Walmart to you is the Walmart in your pocket.
Oh, wow. I'm sitting on Walmart right now. Okay, so we're going to move to our lightning round, which has more recently been a thunder round because it's brought a lot of impact, but has not moved as quickly. So, Doug, the challenge is on you to bring back the lightning. Are you ready? We're going to ask you several questions that you have not been prepared for, at least so far as I know, unless Valerie was slipping you the questions earlier. But answer as honestly and quickly as possible. Ready?
Okay.
What is one marketing cliche that you absolutely can't stand?
Not marketing, but in general, let's put a pin in it. I hate that.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. What's your favorite guilty pleasure snack that you can find on shelves at Walmart?
Oreos, without a doubt.
Nice.
Hi, I've heard of those. Describe the future of digital media in 3 words.
Fun, exciting, and
well, that's 3. Fun, exciting, and you know what? We'll leave the rest to the listener's imagination. Those were 3 words.
There you go. All right.
What's the best career advice you've gotten?
Be intellectually curious.
Tell me more.
I thought this was a lightning round.
It was. I was just trying to turn it back around.
So ridiculous.
On the flip side, what advice would you give to marketers looking to break into this space or who are curious about retail media or something of that ilk?
Try everything and push boundaries. I think it's an incredible opportunity for brands right now.
Okay. Second to last question, and I need to, again, please be honest. Mm-hmm. Have you ever stolen anything from a Walmart?
No, and this is why robots don't follow me around stores, just to be clear. No, I've never stolen anything from a Walmart.
I haven't either. Question mark?
What's the line item for stolen goods that Walmart has annually? I can't even imagine what it must be. But
you
anyway.
mean the shrink that we have?
Yeah,
it's in our reports, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And last question: do you think, as the retail media expert on this podcast, that the future of advertising is really all in here, or are we just in the middle of this hype cycle that's going to fizzle out?
No, I think, look, I'm going to spend a little more time on this one than your 1 second answer. I think if done right, retail media will become the conduit or the pipes between publishing and, and media, just because the layer of data and measurement, I think will, depending on the retailer or the brand and their need, I truly believe that this will be the connectivity that that's needed to provide true accountability for every part of the purchase funnel or the consideration set. So I think this is not hype. I think there are a lot of people that are jumping into it. I do think that a lot of those will fizzle out. And I think the ones that can really do it with the high fidelity data and measurement are the ones that are going to be ingrained into media as we move forward.
Well, as long as we have a conduit and a connector and a champion like you, then I also believe that the future of community plus retail media is bright. So thank you, Doug, for joining us. Valerie, any parting words from your side of Manhattan?
I had not met Doug. I have met some of his wonderful colleagues, so it's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
That's a wrap. Thanks to Doug. Thanks to Lead Feeder, and thanks to all of you. See you next time on the Snarketing Podcast.